next 4 or 5 weeks, get some gear, and then you can finally raid with us. And the dude's like, okay, I'm in. It is awesome that all of you, I'm assuming everyone in this room has a max level character, and a lot of you probably have many max level characters. But we want to make sure all your friends do too. We want to make sure as soon as Warlords of Draenor comes out, all of you can get in and jump right into the action without having to go back to Burning Crusade or Lich King and play catch-up for weeks and weeks. So, when you purchase Warlords of Draenor, you get to boost one of your characters to level 90. For some of you, this may be a character that never quite made it. For a lot of you, this is going to be, you just got a brand new level 90 alt. If you've ever experienced what we do with Scroll of Resurrection, we want this transition to be really clean. We don't want you to have a lot of, Fell Iron or some quest in Grizzly Hills that's half completed. So we'll clean up your bags, we'll clean up your quest log and your action bar. We're not going to take anything away from you. It'll all be there. We just want to make the experience really seamless. You can jump right in and start having fun in the Return to the Dark Portal adventure. Inventory updates. So we've introduced this concept, you guys are familiar with, of collections. Currently we have pets and mounts that are collected. What this means is you earn it once, and it's account-wide, and you can use it on any of your characters, across realm, and things like that. So, what are we going to add to pets and mounts? We're going to add So this is your new heirloom UI. Anything you want is stored here. All of the icons that are grayed out, just with the pet journal, will give you information about where to acquire it, so you don't have to try to remember, was it some vendor in Stormwind, or was it a rare drop, or something like that. All the information is there. And again, this is cross-realm on any character, so you don't have to worry, who had my heirloom? Was it that one dude? I can't find it. Everything's here when you need it. We know, it's time. You've earned it. It's really account-wide. And then this is the toy box. It works similarly. You can see a couple of the toys up at the top are starred. We've also added a mount journal that also has starred favorites, including a button that's like summon random favorite mount. Your bags are still a mess, even with all the heirlooms and toys taken out of them. So what can we do about that? We don't think big bags is the answer. It takes forever to find stuff in it as it is. Instead, we're just trying to organize it a little better. These are a lot of requests we've gotten over the years, and we're finally able to deliver on some of it. So there's a lot of information on this screen. The first thing is you can assign each bag a particular type of inventory. So you can say, I only want consumables to fill up this bag to help you find your stuff better. Secondly, you'll see the white icons indicate new items that have gone into your bag since you last opened them, so you can find that new stuff pretty easily. And then we also highlight the different quality of the items. You can see some of the rare and epic items have their appropriate blue or purple outlines around them. And then finally, the bag that has all the gold icons shows you quickly at a glance that that's vendor trash that you can safely get rid of. And in addition, we're not going to put quest items in your bags at all. We'll just store these items right on the quest UI so you can see them. If there's a clickable item, it'll be there. And again, hopefully, we may give you bags that are slightly larger, but overall, it should be a much better experience, and you'll spend more time killing orcs and less time organizing stuff.
You didn't mean that, orcs. It wasn't personal.
The bad orcs. And then finally, we're just going to allow you to craft directly from your bank. So if you have resources there, you can just access them right away without so much mailing. We're also going to increase the stack size in a lot of these things up to 100, so you'll get a little bit more of your bag space back. what is the adventure guide? Now, I know all of you out there are masters of World of Warcraft. You never have any questions about where to go or what to do next. But we know that's not true of everyone out there. So the adventure guide is really designed, particularly when a new patch comes out with new content, and you're like, am I supposed to finish doing the current stuff, or am I supposed to jump right away? Blizzard, tell me what to do. So the adventure guide is a path to gear upgrades. It shows you the new content that's out and what might be appropriate to you. And most importantly, it's customized for your character individually. So this happy little gnome here, we've identified, plays a lot of PvP. So if you can imagine, when the Siege of Orgrimmar patch came out, we would tell them, hey, Deepwind Gorge is out, that's something you want to try. And we noticed that you're rank 7 in the Brawlers Guild, so maybe you want to go to rank 8. Along the bottom, we also show you, based on your current gear, the kind of raid content that we think you're ready for. And then this is a more PvE-focused player. One of the things to point out is that we mentioned the Sky Golem specifically because we know you're an engineer. So we can customize all of this for your character. If you haven't played a dude in a while and you come back in, you can kind of figure out what you're supposed to do next. Level 100 talents. We can't count, so we gave them to you 5 levels early. You can go play Frostfire or Shadow Moon today at Blizzcon. I doubt you'll reach level 100 in 15 minutes, but I know you guys are pros. You'll still be able to open up your talent tree and see these new talents. These are fairly early designs, but they're not just standard. We're taking them seriously, so feedback is appreciated. One thing to note is we're going to start splitting out the tooltips of talents a little more by spec. Particularly classes like Druid and Priest have these pretty wordy tooltips that say, if you're Shadow, it really does this. If you're Holy, it really does this. So I'm just adding that as a caveat because some of the tooltips you'll see at BlizzCon are quite long. You're welcome. All right, Ian will now talk to you about our incredible Dungeons and Raids.
All right, well, it wouldn't be a new expansion without some new Dungeon and Raid content, so of course we've got some of that. We're really happy with the overall amount of multiplayer group content that was in Mists of Pandaria, though we've heard you guys, we could probably have used some more patch dungeons, something we're still thinking about looking to do. Hear you on that one. Well, let's jump right into this. So dungeons. We're going to have 7 new dungeons available at launch in Warlords of Draenor. 4 of these will be available as you level up, 3 exclusively at max level. And you may see that last bullet point there. So we always look to see, if it makes sense with the story that we're telling, where the expansion's going as a whole. It's great to have this opportunity to revisit old favorites, old classic dungeons, update them the way we've done with places like Deadmines or Scalamans or Scarlet Monastery. And given the central importance of the Blackrock clan to the Iron Horde and their plans, this felt like a great time to revisit Upper Blackrock Spire. So that's going to be overhauled, and it will be a new dungeon available at level up as well as max level. And you can see what's going on there. There are some interesting things. We're going to have normal, heroic, and challenge difficulties of all these dungeons. One slight difference between this and Mists of Pandaria is that we will have normal versions of the max level dungeons to really flesh out a full tier of itemization and progression to help you get ready for some maybe more challenging heroic dungeons. So between these max level normal dungeons and scenarios, you can be prepared. And we're happy with how challenge modes have worked out in Mist, so we're continuing to do them to provide some really challenging multiplayer group content for people who want to push themselves in dungeons. So, one dungeon, let's take a close look at this. The Bloodmaw Slag Mines. It's located in Frostfire Ridge, and the Bloodmaw Ogres are just running this brutal mining operation inside pretty much an active volcano. It's a 4-boss dungeon with a non-linear layout, so you can kind of work your way through as you choose, though the final boss will be the final boss regardless. What's going on here is ogres that are, putting Frostwolf orcs, putting Draenei hard to work in this volcano, and as you go through, depending on your faction, you will liberate them, kind of stage a revolt, raise allies on your side, and take down the cruel master of the mines. Now, this dungeon is completely playable on the floor of BlizzCon today, so if you are here with few friends, guildmates, you can line up as a group of 5 and jump right in. If not, maybe you can spam the equivalent of a trade chat as you're waiting in line. Try to find a group to put together. While this dungeon is in a horde starting zone, if you're Alliance, you'll have an item in your bags that will teleport you to the dungeon. So both factions can check it out. Curious to see what you guys think when it's on the floor. This is a look at a 2D layout for the dungeon. Here you see some of the nonlinearity. Basically, there's a ring that you can work your way around. One boss on the left side, one boss on the right side, one patroller that makes his way through the mines as a whole. Once all 3 have been defeated, you can access the boss in the back. And we have a video for you guys. We'll walk through the mines. So, and of course, that's just one dungeon of the many. Some of the others that you're going to be seeing in Warlords, there's a dungeon set at the Blackrock Foundry in Gorgrond, where you can really see the Blackrock War Machine kind of in full swing and help take that apart. Alkindune in Talador. As you mentioned earlier, this is not the smoldering crater that you may remember from Outland. This is the holy mausoleum of the Draenor, where their souls go to rest, but also to be protected from the Burning Legion and the Eridar that eternally hunt and thirst for Draenei's souls. And maybe the followers of a fellow named Gul'dan might have some interest in a place like that. We'll have to see. The Arakoa Spires, looking down upon the land and the spires of Iraq. These are not the hunched, twisted Arakoa that were cursed in Outland. This is the majestic winged race that has a high civilization, and you will be seeing what they're up to there. In Shadowmoon Valley, the Shadowmoon clan, Ner'zhul, beneath the earth, is working and dabbling with dark powers in the Shadowmoon burial grounds as he slips further into his descent into darkness. And you'll have to go in there and put a stop to what he's doing, of course. And the Iron Barracks, where an army is being raised, this army that's going to march into and take over Azeroth, unless you stop them, and more. So that's just the dungeons. Of course, raids. As I mentioned, we're happy with the amount of raid content that was available in Mists of Pandaria release. We liked the way the staggered 2-tier rollout worked, where we had Mogu'shan Vaults initially, and then Heart of Fear and Terrace of Endless Spring afterwards. So we're kind of looking to mirror that going forward into Warlords. There are going to be 2 new raid zones available. The one right at the outset is going to be the Ogre raid at Highmaul in Nagrand. This is a bit of that high Ogre civilization that we talked about earlier. This is going to be a 6-boss raid, and will kind of whet your appetite for the things that are to come. After that, you'll be able to venture into the Blackrock Foundry, where really this is the war machine of the Iron Horde. It's the height of its military might. The processing, refining of the Blackrock ore, for which the Blackrock clan gets its name, as it's forged into weapons and armor and war machines that are assembled and sent off to the front lines to wreak havoc upon Draenei and eventually Azeroth. And Warlord Blackhand, commands this from the interior of the Crucible, and you need to go in there, work your way through this 10-boss raid, and put a stop to his plans. We'll be talking a bit more about this raid at our later Raid and Systems panel. And of course, we'll see the return of world bosses. There'll be fierce new world bosses in the model of, Shav Anger, Ordos, Nalak, etc. Always continuing to learn from our experiences there, improve upon the experience we're delivering, and give players that really epic multiplayer feeling of, 30, 40 frostbolts flying through the air as you fight something in the outdoor world, not necessarily in an instance. In addition to some of the specific raid content that we're releasing, we're also taking a moment to reflect upon our philosophy and how we're approaching the design of our raids. So, any Flex Raiders in the house? Awesome. Yeah, we're super happy to see how flexible raiding has worked out so far in patch 5.4 and how it's been embraced in Siege of Orgrimmar. I think that it really, flexible raiding offers a solution to a lot of the social problems that often are one of the downsides of group raiding. Anytime there's a mismatch between the number of people on hand that want to raid and the fixed size of raid content. If you have 8 people looking to do a 10-player raid, well, you're going to have 8 pretty unhappy people. If you have 12 people looking to do a 10-player raid, well, then you have to deal with who sits on the bench, maybe no one wants to. That's not very much fun either. And one of the great things about the flexible structure is the ability to come and go. If you don't have to feel guilty if you miss a raid, or if someone logs on in the middle of the night, they can hop right in. You just keep going. And it's really opening an experience that we think of as a core part of the multiplayer role-playing experience to more people. And that's fantastic. Now, for several years now, for a couple of expansions, we've supported a parallel 10 and 25 player structure. From Wrath of the Lich King onward, and then in Cataclysm, we really took efforts to make them truly equal in terms of difficulty and reward. But there have been tensions throughout that system that we've experienced, and trying to reward them equally, trying to keep the difficulty equal, while trying to recognize the logistical difficulties of keeping a 25-player roster together, but also not making the 10-player raiders feel like second-class citizens. There's just been this kind of struggle, this back and forth between the 10 and the 25 camps. Well, one of the things that we see out of flexible, one of the potentials of flexible raiding, is that in this 10 versus 25 war, everyone can win. And we see Flex as the way forward in that regard. So we're looking to see how can we expand flexible mode? How can we expand the scaling tech that we have to suit other types of raid structures, other difficulties? How far can it go? One of the first things that we realized when we were testing flexible mode of Siege of Orgrimmar on the PTR is that actually, really the biggest difference between that and normal mode raiding was just the tuning. People who might have tested the very first early flexible tests on PTR may remember when we were scaling your item level down maybe a bit too far, and the tuning was maybe a little bit too high. It actually felt pretty much just like a normal mode raid, except you had 21 or 19 or 14 people, and that was the core difference. So obviously that wasn't our tuning target for 5.4 Siege of Orgrimmar flexible mode, but it was this great proof of concept for where we could go in the future. And we see no reason why what's currently normal mode difficulty can't just work flexibly instead. So you can do it with 10, 25, 14, 19, however many people you have on hand. And so that leads us to continue to think, well, is there anything else the Flex can do for us? What about Raid Finder? Now, Raid Finder, I think it makes sense to continue to matchmake to a fixed group size. However, I'm sure most of us who've done Raid Finder have had the experience where you're about to pull the boss, a couple of DPS and a healer or something drop, and you're standing around with 22 people in the group waiting for it to backfill. Wouldn't it be nice if the boss could just scale down smoothly in difficulty so you could just go ahead and pull instead of waiting? With flexible scaling, we can make that happen. Now, so is there anything Flex can't do? Well, okay, yes. There's the one area where we don't think that Flex scaling is really very well suited is the most cutting edge, the most tightly tuned hardcore content, because the reality is it's a challenge for us to begin with just to tune it correctly for 2 difficulties currently. And this is the audience that really is going to try to min-max and take every possible advantage. The last thing we want to see is for the right answer to be to do boss 3 with 17 people and then drop to 14 for boss 4 and so forth. No one wants that. We're not going to do that. Don't worry. But what that means is that really cutting-edge content is best suited in terms of tuning, in terms of presentation, to a single raid size. And we've been looking, since we've been getting rid of this parallel 10 and 25 structure in our normal mode, and we've been thinking, what can we do about that for our current heroic mode? And what we're doing is looking to consolidate to a single 20-player raid size going forward. We were trying to pick an intermediate point that would be a compromise between the 2 existing raid sizes, but also allow for us to do some things like assume that you have at least one of every class present. So if you really missed the enslaved demon mechanic on High King Malgar way back when, or spell steal mechanics, we can do that. I don't know that we do exactly that, but we can do that. And it will provide a much more level playing field, more tightly tuned content, and a better experience all around going forward. So to sum up, this is the picture of raiding in Warlords of Draenor. We're streamlining. We're condensing from 6 separate modes of raiding down to 4. We'll have Raid Finder, which exists largely as does today, with the benefit of being able to scale slightly to accommodate variances in group size or maybe to improve queue times. We will have a normal mode that scales flexibly from 10 to 25. We will have a heroic mode that scales flexibly from 10 to 25. And for those seeking the ultimate raiding challenge, we have Mythic difficulty at a fixed 20-player raid size. So we'll be talking a bit more about raiding and some of the philosophy that went into those changes and our systems going forward at our Raid Systems Quests gameplay panel tomorrow. But in the meantime, let me hand this off to Tom, who's going to talk some more about PvP changes.
All right. So do we have any PvPers out here? Okay. I think that was at least 4. All right, so what are we doing with PvP? Here's kind of a summary of the different things that we're tackling. We're going to create a world PvP zone, and I'll talk about that first. That's probably the most meaningful, really new type of thing that we're doing compared to what we've done in the past. We're also making some UI improvements. We're going to make some changes to the way that we do Battleground rewards, and we're also going to introduce a concept that we're calling Trial of the Gladiator. So to start with, what is this world PvP zone you speak of? Well, we're creating a place. It's one of those islands that you guys referenced that was off the coast. It's off the eastern coast of Tanan Jungle. It's called Ashran. And it is a staging area near the Dark Portal that both the Horde and Alliance want to control. This has faction bases on it, and it has a variety of different hotspots. There are a lot of different points of interest the different factions are going to want to control. But really, more than anything else, what separates this from previous PvP world zones that we've done is that it is a PvP sandbox that is persistent and continues on all the time. It isn't like Wintergrass, which really felt like a kind of an instance battleground because it had that start and finish. This is really going to be more like a timeless isle of PvP, in that all the objectives that are there are all PvP oriented, but you're kind of free to go in there and do whatever it is that you want to do. It's a lot like what you might think of as the original Alterac Valley. I don't know if there are many people here that played the original AV. But, you know, there was a day when, you know, you used to queue up for AV, maybe get in the battleground, let's say in the morning. You could leave the battleground sometime to go to work or go to school, and by the end of the day, you come back and you actually jump right back into the same battleground because these things lasted sometimes 24, 48 hours. So that's really what this zone is all about. This is a persistent war in this zone that's going to swing back and forth as time goes on. You can come and go whenever it is that you want and take part. There are a lot of different objectives in the zone, so you'll be able to, you know, kind of pick out whatever it is that you want to do. Do you want to take over the mine to, you know, contribute more supplies to your team? Or do you want to try to build a siege vehicle to take out the enemy base? You know, whatever it is that you want to do. Maybe take over a tower, etc. And finally, this will use our cross-realm technology, right? Because obviously, I'm guessing maybe some of you play on a realm that doesn't have the best Horde versus Alliance faction population balance. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be pairing up realms so that when you go into this zone, and you know you'll fly into this zone seamlessly, just like you do with cross-realm zones, you will be paired up with other realms that have the opposite problem that your realm has. So really what we're going to be able to do is to create a faction balance using the cross-realm tech that is at least far, far better than what it is on your home realm today. And you guys will, you know, duke it out over that territory. And then if the faction balance changes for whatever reason, we can at any time pair up different realms. So there it is off the coast of Tanan Jungle. This island actually existed in some of the really old Warcraft maps. Was sort of referred to as the Deathwing Island, mysteriously. And this is just a concept piece, like it's just a mock-up to show kind of some of the environment and art assets that we're looking at using. There are a lot of different pieces that we're going to be assembling to create the Horde and Alliance bases, and there are going to be a ton of different points of interest around also. You know, you're looking at a zone that's going to have constant, non-stop action going on. So for any of you PvPers that really want to just feel like you can go to a zone and hang out and have some kind of, you know, entertaining killing of the other side without a whole lot of structure, this is the place to do it. You'll get to build and commandeer siege vehicles. Some of these are vehicles that you might build over the course of multiple days, right? You might gather some materials on one day and continue your progress on the next day, and then eventually build your machine of mighty destruction and have a rampage on your enemies for a while. You'll be able to reduce the enemy base to rubble, and the battle will rage on. Here are some of the siege vehicles that you'll get to use. You'll also be able to commandeer some of the Iron Horde siege vehicles that are around. You know, the Iron Horde has had a presence here also, so you'll get a mix of different stuff. We have things like the Incinerator. We have the Blade Mortar that shoots this, you know, giant net full of old weapons at your opponent, so it just kind of flays them with shrapnel. Good times. So next up, we have our UI improvements. We have a lot of different things that we're going to try to do to the UI to just make the PvP experience cleaner, a little easier to follow, all that kind of stuff. We have our objective tracker. We're going to do capture status so that you can actually see how much progress you're making toward capturing a point of interest. And we've got some little screenshots to show you what that looks like. So imagine you're looking at the Arathi Basin map, and you know, right now, today, unless you have a mod like Deadly Boss mods, you know, you really don't have the ability to see how much time there is left to capture a point of interest. So now you'll actually be able to see that right on the map. I'll zoom in a little bit, right? So you know, be able to see how close you are to capturing it. We'll also be able to reflect that in the actual world assets themselves, right? So that you know, today you see, you know, when you capture the blacksmith, let's say, you see the Alliance flag go up, and then, you know, it's gray until you finally capture it, and then it, you know, turns blue. But now it'll actually fill in with its color as it's in the process of capturing. So even just as you're fighting out in the world, you'll have a better sense of how close you are to capturing that point of interest. We're also going to introduce the concept of a battleground score. So the battleground score is something that we're going to be able to do to give players a clearer sense of how they're doing in the battleground. Here's a little screenshot of what the scoreboard's going to look like in 6.0. And the default sorting, you'll notice, is by score. You know, today, the default sorting is by, like, killing blows. You know, a lot of people resort their battleground scoreboard by, you know, damage done, or if you're a healer, by healing, stuff like that. But it's really hard to, you know, get a sense of exactly how you're doing versus other people. And that feels like not really the best way to sort. So we've heard a lot of feedback over the years that players really want to get a better sense of how well they're doing in a battleground. And this score will factor in everything that you're doing. It's really, a lot of it is based around the objectives that you're completing. And then, of course, your, you know, damage and healing factor in as well. So, you know, your deaths, your kills, all that kind of good stuff. This way, you really have an ability to look at it and see, you know, oh, okay, how am I doing? And potentially, it could play into the rewards at the end. It could also maybe help us identify AFKers better, too. So I also talked a bit about the reward system and what we're going to try to do with that. So today, you know, one of the problems that we have with PvP is that it's too deterministic. And we love some of that determinism in that, you know, okay, well, I need this much honor to be able to, you know, buy the legs that I want to buy, or the helmet or whatever. But it feels a bit formulaic in that, you know, from week to week, you know, okay, well, you know, it's going to take me about 8 battlegrounds, and I'll have enough honor to buy the pair of pants, and it just feels very formulaic. We thought it would be really cool to break that up with bonus random rewards. So, of course, the honor system is going to stay in place, and you'll still earn honor, and you'll be able to buy the items exactly as you do today. But wouldn't it be cool if at the end of any given battleground or even arena, if you had a chance to get lucky and win some stuff in advance? Hey, here's to getting lucky. So, so what are the things that you can get? You can get items, maybe that pair of legs that you really have been wanting to buy. You might get lucky and roll that and happen to get it in advance. You might get some bonus honor. You might get some bind on equip gear. And so while the bind on equip gear might not be the stuff that's a direct upgrade for your character, it might be, depending on where you are in your progression. It could also be really cool to put on the auction house and actually make some money off of doing PvP. Imagine that. Also, we'll have things like consumables, stuff like that, so that, if you ever wanted to have, something like the Battleground potions that we used to do back in the day, this is a really cool way to earn those things. Finally, we'll also be able to do a weekly quest to upgrade an item so that it takes a little bit of the pressure off of your honor in terms of, oh, should I buy an item or should I use my honor to upgrade an item or that sort of thing. We'll be able to do a weekly quest to complete, to win a certain number of battlegrounds or arenas. And as soon as you do, then boom, you'll be able to upgrade an item. And last but not least, I want to talk a little bit about this thing that we're calling the Trial of the Gladiator. And so you might be asking yourself, what is the Trial of the Gladiator? I know what gladiators are, but how does this work? Well, Trial of the Gladiator is the arena ladder. I don't know how many of you are, fairly competitive in the arena these days, but yeah, hell yeah. So one of the problems that we have is that it's very difficult to find people of your caliber, if you're a really high-end competitive player, to play with at the same time. And so really the Trial of the Gladiator is taking the concept of the arena ladder that we have right now and really focusing it to concentrate the queues at certain periods of time during the week so that you really get a lot of people in the queues at the same time, and that it also provides great benefits to us in terms of finding people that are exploiting. I don't know how much you guys know about it, but pretty much any time there's an exploit going on with the arena ladders, or even the rated battleground ladders, it has something to do with a couple of sketchy dudes logging in at like 4 a.m. and queuing against their other sketchy friends and manipulating the ladders. And so by concentrating all the activity into a shorter period of time, it gives us an ability to monitor that much more closely, and also it makes it a lot harder to exploit because there are a lot of people in the queues when that thing's happening. In addition, one of the really exciting things here is that we get to use what we call tournament rules. So this is a lot like the way the arena server works, right? So when you go to the arena server, it's not a competition about gear. Anybody can go to the Trial of the Gladiator and use the vendors and put on the gear that they want to use and hop right into the Trial of the Gladiator. It is purely about the skill. So if you're the kind of person that doesn't want to grind toward your gear on a season-by-season basis, this is the thing for you. You show up, everybody has the same item level, you pick which items that you want to use, and you jump in there, and that's what you use. Your PvE gear won't work in there, only this stuff. And this, of course, will determine your prestige rewards. So if you ever wanted that gladiator title or mount, this is the place that you're going to do it. Your regular season kind of stuff that you do is going to happen, and you'll be able to earn your honor and conquest and buy gear and all that kind of stuff that you can use to take into the world PvP zone. But really, the crux of how you're going to get the prestige stuff is through here. All right, so that pretty much wraps it up. I want to thank all you guys for coming out here, and unfortunately, we don't have any time for Q&A, but fortunately, we anticipated that. And we created an entire panel that is purely for Q&A. That'll be near the end of the day tomorrow. But what I do want to do is call out some of the other WoW panels that we're going to be having. We have the Adventure Continues panel to talk more about the lore of the Warlords of Draenor expansion today at 2:30. We have the art panel. You do not want to miss the art panel. It is fucking amazing.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Also, raids, gameplay, questing, and more. We'll talk in more depth about a lot of the stuff you just heard about, and then our QA. So thanks and take care.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for attending the
You're watching BlizzCon 2013, an original DirecTV production since 2008. Level up to DirecTV at directv.com.
Who's live here